Alright, so the next couple videos in the approaching derivative problems section is going to be just going over a couple examples of multi-rule derivatives. So rules that involve a combination of product, quotient, and chain. So looking at this problem, this is going to be the first problem, the problem we do this video. You see we have two functions here being multiplied together, so x squared and e to the x are being multiplied together, and then that product is inside of the cosine function. So this part right here is going to be the product, and then the combination here is going to be chain. So how do you approach it? So the one that takes precedence in this case would be the chain rule, because you always work from the outside in. So since the cosine function is the most outer part of the function, you start by taking the derivative of that. So f prime of x would be equal to the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine, and then you leave this part the same, and then you multiply this by the derivative of this part. So I'll just mark that as this, and then like that. So that's the definition of the chain rule. This part then becomes the first, so the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. This is product rule. So that's the definition of product rule. So the first term, we leave it as is. So it's x squared times the derivative of the second term, which is e to the x, and the derivative of e to the x is still e to the x. And then you add the second term, which is still e to the x, times the derivative of the first term, which is 2. So, 2x. My bad. So it's times 2x. So that is the product rule component of it. So you go in and you plug in everything as it is. So again, the first part from up here is negative sine x squared e to the x, which is again exactly as it is up here because we just took the derivative of the outside part, so the cosine, and then you multiply it. So you can either do it like written like this, and then exactly as it is here. So x squared e to the x and plus 2x e to the x. And that's your answer. So the couple important things to note from this problem is that one, the first step we did was identify which rules we needed to do. And then from there, we approached it in the correct order. That's a big one. So usually you go from the outside of the problem to the parentheses. So you don't ever really start with what's in the parentheses. And that's kind of how chain rule works. So that's one way to go. It's not always going to be written using parentheses, but if it is, you usually start with the component that's not in the parentheses. And then from there, so that's what we did. We took the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine, and left everything as it is. Everything else. And then you multiplied it by the derivative of the inside part, or the inside function, which in this case required product rule. So we defined that over here. So I usually write out the rules that I'm using. So I write out the rules here, and I write out what they are in whatever form I like. This is the form that I've always looked at. But the more work you put and the more logic you define or you defend, the more points you're going to get in terms of partial credit, and the less likely you'll be to make a mistake. So those are my big points with this problem. Go ahead and check out the next video. We're going to do another problem which is slightly more complicated than this one. And I think by the fourth video, we have a problem that uses all three product, quotient, and chain rules. So definitely check that one out because I don't think I've ever seen a calc exam that doesn't have that kind of problem on it. So definitely check that out.